lecture and info session, just so if anybody's not here, they can review it. Also, if anybody who is here wants to review this, I'll post it onto YouTube so everybody can access it. And so we're gonna go over a few things. I'm gonna take you through what the next few weeks look like in this quarter, and we'll have a lot of space for questions, clarification, and getting you set up to start your big painting, or one of your first big painting. So yeah, make sure you have everything you need to pay attention. Maybe you're taking notes, maybe you have a cold drink or some snacks, whatever you gotta do to stay awake and attentive. So just to give you a visual reminder, today is July 22nd, and we're going to be doing everything we need to get started on our first full color palette painting. Now, this is also the time in the quarter where previously we had all worked close together at the same time on all the same assignments, but now is the time in the quarter where you're going to have a little bit more spaciousness to work at your own pace, and also to make a couple of decisions about what assignments you want to fully do, which ones you want to invest in. And so basically I'm going to present 2 assignments today, and you don't have to do both of them, but if you'd like to, you're welcome to. And I will do the grading to reflect on that. You don't have to worry about your grade or how that affects your grades. It'll be totally fine. But the first assignment is the full color palette painting. So an observational painting where you get to use all the colors and mix everything from your primary color palette. And there's 2 options for that painting. We have this still life set up over here, and it's kind of a big, expressive, dramatic still life that you are welcome to work from. And then there's also, of course, outside, and you would be welcome to set up outside, find a place that you feel comfortable to return to over a few class periods. So we'll get into the logistics about that later, but just so you know, that's the first assignment. And then the second assignment is a self-portrait. And that self-portrait is an invitation to be very expressive and playful. So that self-portrait does not have to be a very human-like, realistic representation of yourself, like fully what you see in a mirror or what you see when you take a picture, but it could be an expressive self-portrait. So those are the 2 assignments that are coming up, and I invite you to work on them at your own pace and do what feels right. The suggestion is to start with the full color palette painting, so either this still life or something outside, and then if and when you finish that, you could move on to the self-portrait. If you're like, oh my gosh, all I want to do is paint this self-portrait, I'm so excited for this self-portrait, you can of course go ahead and do that first. It's up to you. And whichever one you decide to start with, if you end up getting so excited and invested in that you really only have time to do that one, that is okay, right? Some people work really fast and they burn through paintings and might make 3 paintings, you know? Some people really are a little bit more slow and careful and meticulous and really want to take their time. So this is the time in the quarter where I want you to start to be able to lean into those tendencies that you have and that way of working, and do what feels right to you. So does everybody understand that? Okay, great. So just to have the visual, today is July 22nd. We're going to get set up for that first painting. And then July 27th and July 29th. Those are Monday and Wednesday of next week. Just a reminder, I will not be here on those 2 days, which is part of why I'm giving you such a dense presentation today. Brian will be here. You all met Brian, he's the lab tech. And he will be here to open up the studio at 12, and then it's up to you to get yourself set up and start painting. And use that time however is best fit for you. The studio will also be open on Tuesday, the 28th. So as usual, we have open studios on Tuesdays from 12 to 5. So it's really a time for you to work at your own pace, be a little bit more self-sufficient, get yourself set up. And I will be back. I will be back on August 3rd, and that is kind of a flex day. So you have all of next week to work on these paintings, and then Monday, I'll be back. We'll still have this set up, it'll still be open studio, but we'll all be able to check in, and that's kind of the day to finish those paintings. And then August 5th, the Wednesday after that, so that's 2 weeks from today, we're gonna do a group critique where this will all be cleared out, and the whole class will be devoted to everybody hanging up their paintings, all of the paintings that they've done this quarter, and we will, as a group, reflect on and talk about everybody's collection of paintings that you've done. So, big open spaciousness to create, and then we'll come together for conversation and reflection. So, that's what the next couple weeks look like. And then, alongside of that, interwoven with that, I'm going to plant the seed now for your artist presentation. So part of this class is that I ask everybody to find and research an artist they're interested in. And you'll see it on the calendar, it's highlighted in pink, that it starts to be on the calendar, that there is a homework assignment, and this is due August 10th, so you have some time. But I like to start telling people about that assignment now so that you can budget your time and have spaciousness to do this research and to create this presentation in a way that feels great and awesome to you, because this is a presentation that you're going to make and you're going to share with your classmates. And I have created my own artist presentation to show you all as an example, so that you know what my expectations are generally for this assignment. So, oh yeah, I'll open that assignment up on Canvas and we can look at it together. Before I do that, does anybody have any questions or would like any clarification on anything that I just said and shared? Oh, good? Okay. So, when you go into Canvas, go into the modules, down here, on week 3, I have put in the homework assignment for the artist presentation. So this should be easy for you all to find, and a 3 to 5 minute is about how long the presentation is expected to be. Some people tend to go over because they get really excited. Just don't go over too much. 3 to 5 minutes is how long I'd like this presentation to be. And we will present these in class to your classmates on Monday, August 10th. And I want to say very clearly and explicitly that I want everybody to do your own research. I want you to find an artist that you are interested in, and I do not want you to use AI for this assignment. I don't care what a computer thinks. I really love for you all to do your own research, and I would much rather see an assignment where there's spelling errors because of your own hand, and maybe it's like jumbled and not perfect. I don't care if your presentation is perfect, you know, and I want to see what you do, and I don't want you to do an AI generated presentation, please, because that's just also gonna like not be fun to look at, you know. So just saying that very explicitly out loud. It's highlighted on the assignment, and if, you know, I think that you used AI, we're gonna have to have a conversation, and you might not be eligible for full credit for this assignment. It's pretty easy in this class to not use AI for your paintings, because I don't know, we're not at that level yet. So this is kind of the part of the quarter where I'm like, we gotta talk about this, right? So no AI. Of course, you can use websites as your research, right? You can use the internet, just not ChatGPT or whatever. So, there are a few steps to this assignment, and step one is choosing an artist. Who do you want to research? Who are you interested in? And just as a hint, this artist that you choose is somebody that you're going to work with a lot, because with your final painting, I would like you to draw inspiration from this artist that you research. So there's kind of a thread that we're starting right now, or this idea of planting a seed that is going to grow and bloom by the end of the quarter. There are a number of ways to research artists, and I'm going to talk about those different ways. I prefer that you do a little bit of your own kind of research, rather than like scrolling on Instagram and seeing something that's cool and going with that. Instagram is awesome in a lot of ways and has a lot of information, but I think I want you to dig a little bit and do some active research rather than like the passive research of, you know, seeing what comes up on the algorithm. Does that make sense? So there's a few different ways to do that. And I've listed them here. There's a lot of resources. So one way is to go online and look at collections, the virtual collections of art museums. And that is highlighted here. Choose one. So what these are, has anybody looked at any of these before? Museum collections? A little bit. So these are real museums that exist in real life, and they have an amazing database of all of the artworks in these museums collections, and they're high quality images of the artworks in the museum. So it's essentially very similar to going out into the world and going to an art museum and wandering around and seeing what inspires you. But it's nice because you have access to images from museums that are not just here in Seattle, but that are in New York and Philadelphia and England. These are just a few that I listed. I didn't want to overwhelm you with options. I think that there's enough to work with here. But of course, if there's another museum that you're interested in investigating, just send me a message with that link so I can check it out and make sure it's a credible resource. But it probably should be fine. So if we go click this link to the Metropolitan Museum of Art, it takes you here where you can see all of the art that they have on display. And of course, it's an overwhelming amount of stuff. And you could, if you'd like, just scroll through it and see what you find there. But if you're interested maybe in, maybe you are interested in abstract maybe you're interested in abstract expressionism, right? So you could, you could scroll through, but you could also search abstract expressionism. And then you're going to find a more curated list of paintings. And maybe you're looking at all of these abstract expressionists and you're like, this, let's see, this thing by Marston Hartley is pretty cool. I wonder what else they have by Marston Hartley. And so maybe you want to get more specific and put that name in. And then it'll show you only paintings by Marston Hartley, right? So that's a good way to conduct this research, is kind of going from the general, like picking a museum to visit, and then seeing what catches your eye, and then going further down that kind of rabbit hole until you find the artist that you're interested in. So that's one way to do this research. Another way, that I offer is through reading some artist interviews. So, I think the museum is good if you are like the kind of person that really likes to wander through and sift through a lot of things and see what is interesting to them, but maybe you are the kind of person that really likes to read interviews, and that's a more interesting way for you to learn stuff. So I've listed 2 resources of interviews. Oh, I should say the artist that you research has to be a painter. That's the only criteria, is that this is a painting class and I'd like you to research a painter. Okay? They can do other stuff too. A lot of painters work across multiple mediums, but because we're in painting class, we're going to make a painting inspired by this person. I'd like for them to be a painter. So, which is why the interviews are painting perceptions and beer with a painter. And so, you can scroll through and see these interviews. It's nice because they show a picture of the artist with a picture of the work that they make, right? So that's like a nice way to be like, this Mary O'Neill seems pretty cool, curious about that. Let's click on that interview and read this interview. And, I think because of all this information is out there, read a couple sentences. If it catches, keep reading. If you're like, this is boring, then you can move on, right, to the next. Because there's so much out there, don't feel like you have to commit to the first thing that you pick. But say this interview really is awesome and you want to keep reading it, you totally should. So that's another way. And then, if all of this feels like too overwhelming, I made a list of painters that are totally fine to research. So if you would rather just go through this list that I've generated, feel free to do that. And then the last way to do this is to go out into the world and go to a museum or gallery in real human life and see what you actually see there, what's interesting to you there, and then choose an artist that you see at any of these museums or galleries and research them. So that's a lot of options, and I hope that one of them speaks to you. The hope is that there are a lot of different ways to find an artist, that everybody is able to find one in a way that feels exciting and stimulating to you, and that you really find an artist that you like. So, reminder, this artist should be a painter, or at least deeply invested in a painting practice. They could be living or dead, doesn't matter. And I want you all to really investigate and not just pick the first person that you think of or the first person that you come across. Like, make sure it's somebody that you really are curious about and care about and want to know more and want to be inspired by. Any questions about that? Okay, so reminder that, so first step is to find your artist. And then you're going to create a 3 to 5 minute PowerPoint presentation to share with the class. And I'm going to go into an example of a presentation I made about an artist that I'm interested in and inspired by, so that you all can have a visual cue and a nice example of what I'm looking for. But the criteria for your presentation is all written out here on this assignment. I encourage you to read through it on your own time and just make sure that you hit all the points. But generally, I'm looking for who the artist is, a little biography about them, some conversation about their work, what they made, clear images of their work, who inspired them, and then who they inspired. So we're looking at a little bit of like a lineage thing. Of course, if it's a contemporary artist who's actively working, that might be a little bit harder to find, like who they inspired, but do your best. My expectation is for everybody to make a presentation that's authentic to yourself and to your research and to what you're interested in, right? So if you miss one little thing, but you have a really robust presentation that talks about a lot of things about the artist, like just do your best. And it's just for your own learning experience, and it's more important that you gain something from this research than it is for you to absolutely check all of the boxes and make the most perfect presentation ever. Okay. Yeah, don't use AI. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to go into my presentation. So, and I brought a book with me today about this artist. So later today, or throughout the next few weeks, if you're interested in taking a look deeper, you can look at this book. The artist I chose to share with y'all is Emily Carr, and a lot of her paintings are contained inside of this book. So Emily Carr was born and lived most of her life in British Columbia, Canada, and she was born on December 13th, 1871, and she passed away March 2nd, 1945. And this is an image of Emily in her studio with her paintings. So I have known about Emily Carr for quite a few years and have been interested to one day see her paintings. I had only seen images of them online, and currently there is an exhibit at the Vancouver Art Gallery in British Columbia, Vancouver, of a huge show of Emily Carr's paintings. So earlier this summer, I took a trip up to Vancouver to finally see Emily Carr's paintings in real life. This is an image of the gallery, or of the museum. And the text written on the wall at this exhibit said, and this is a quote from Emily Carr, written in her journal in 1930, which was later in her career. So it says, "Find the forms you desire to express your purpose. When you have succeeded in getting them as near as you can to express your idea, never leave them, but push further on and on, strengthening and emphasizing those forms to enclose that green idea or ideal." And the title of the show was That Green Ideal. So I thought that this was, I really liked this quote, and I think that the show really expressed Emily Carr's lifelong journey of pushing through her paintings until she found her true mode of expression. And she wrote this when she was at that time in her life, around the 30s, was when she really found herself as an artist and was really doing Emily Carr paintings. So this is another image of Emily in her trailer caravan. So Emily lived most of her life in British Columbia. She had a number of siblings. When she was a teenager, her parents both passed away within a couple years of each other. So she got thrown into a new life. She lived with her aunt for a couple years and knew that she was interested in visual art. So she moved to San Francisco to study painting at the California School of Design. And after graduating from there, she returned to Vancouver for a little bit, but then explored some of her painting studies in both England and in Paris. So she got a lot of exposure to a lot of different art around the world at a younger age. And when she came back to Vancouver, she was kind of unimpressed with the art scene there. She just didn't really care much for what was going on and was pretty blunt about that. So she got this caravan and drove all around British Columbia and became kind of like a more solitary creature, painting the landscape. And when she couldn't drive it around because it gets cold up there, she would park it, and that would become her stationary studio space. So a lot of her works were created in and around this caravan. So this is one of her early landscape paintings. This happened shortly after, or maybe even around her time in Paris, where she was really inspired by the Fauvist painters, and and it looks very much like a lot of the people that she studied with. When she came back to Vancouver, she befriended a lot of the First Nations peoples who were living there, and was really, really saddened by knowing that so much of Native culture was getting erased by colonization, and she moved by that feeling, started to paint specifically the totem poles of the Native peoples in British Columbia, and she wanted to hang out and get to know them and try and help in this movement to not be totally erased and knocked down and taken away. So she felt when she started to paint these totem poles, that was her, she had a sensation that was her subject, that was what really moved her to paint. So, and she tried a few things of interiors of houses, and that got her going for a little while. But what started to happen was that she became interested in, deeply interested in the landscape around the totem poles, and started to feel the sensation of the merging of the energies, right? That rather than just this subject, this thing that a human built, that it also really reflected the nature around it. Columbia, Carr was introduced to a group of painters called the Group of Seven, and she had been upset about the art scene in Vancouver, but she found this Group of Seven, which were 7 painters who worked primarily from the landscape, and she went to see their shows and was like really inspired by them, specifically by the painter Lauren Harris, and this is an image of one of his paintings, and perhaps you can see how that was an influence to Emily Carr, and he became a good friend and mentor to Emily Carr throughout her life. Emily also traveled to the East Coast. I think she took a trip to New York, and when she was there, she met Georgia O'Keeffe, who is a painter, lived and worked primarily in New Mexico, and Georgia O'Keeffe painted a lot of flowers and nature scenes. And when they were hanging out, Georgia O'Keeffe inspired Emily Carr to try painting with oil paint on paper. So O'Keeffe gave Carr like a new idea, or like a fun way of painting, and Emily found that like painting on paper was a nice way to be more mobile, like in her caravan, and have less like rigid canvases, and that really opened up her practice and helped her to move around more freely. So yeah, as her paintings progressed, she became more and more invested in the forest and the trees surrounding the totems, and eventually her work turned to embracing the nature itself. And to me it feels like the totem poles became enmeshed with the nature, and that perhaps like Emily Carr was painting from like a hopefulness that rather than being like erased by colonization, that they were like in sync and in tune with nature itself. And I feel like that, like the character of the totem poles that she was so interested in, I think she started to find that in the character of all of like the trees and the water and the sky that she was painting. So that to me feels like she was finding her green ideal that she had mentioned, that we mentioned earlier. So these are an example of a few of her drawings. So I know I tell you all to draw a lot in your sketchbooks, and here's just a nice example of how Emily used drawing to help find the images of her paintings. And then here are 2 of her later paintings when I think she started to really find that green ideal. And just like, I love the form and the flow of the paintings, and how they really feel, like, to me they feel like they're carved out. Maybe in a similar way that people were carving totem poles, right? Like there's this character that starts to emerge from being in the nature. And this is a painting called Loggers' Coals, so about the mass cutting down of trees and just how that really dramatically changes the nature. So she was really like painting and moving all over British Columbia and just seeing everything change so dramatically and so quickly, and yeah, was really like had a lot of feelings about those changes happening and expressed that in her paintings. So Emily Carr is no longer alive. She had a lot of health problems and died, at around 70 or so. But she lives on. There is a university in Vancouver, Washington, that was had a different name originally, but I forget when. They renamed it after Emily Carr. So there is the Emily Carr University of Art and Design. It's an active art school where a lot of artists go to study. And also, another one of her influences, so I mentioned that Group of 7, those painters in Vancouver. there's a group of painters active. Most of them are active now, but they had a show that I saw about 10 years or so ago called 7 on Site. And these are 7 female landscape painters who are, I think, quite obviously inspired by Emily Carr and also that group of 7. And this was actually how I found out about Emily Carr, was through seeing the show of these 7 artists and investigating their influences, and came across Emily Carr. So yeah, that's my presentation about Emily. And yeah, I really encourage everybody to check out this book and take a deeper look at her paintings. And so that's kind of what I'm looking for your own artist presentations. Find somebody you're curious about and that you care about, and share with us. So, and just I want to show a little bit of how now we're like looking forward to the end of the quarter when you pull inspiration from the artist. I'm going to show you all a painting that I did recently where I felt, inspired by Emily Carr and all of this this group of 7. So this is a painting that I've been working on this summer and last summer, and it's a painting of my garden. And I've basically just been standing in one space and setting up my easel and looking at the garden every morning. And for me, landscape painting, I think similar to Emily Carr, is not just about painting what you see, but also about the energy of what you're observing. So like, this garden is growing and changing all of the time. So there's a lot of layers of me painting flowers that have bloomed and then have died and then got pulled out and then something else was planted there. So this is over 2 summers of a garden's growth, and I don't know, maybe I'll work on it next summer again, we'll see. But that's the painting. And for just a sense of, for just like a sense of place, this is my view, where I took this photo from where I'm standing when I'm doing that painting. And these are 2 images of the setup, so you can get a sense of scale and what that looks like. So for me to make it a sustained painting, I picked one spot, and then I always had to work there in the morning because of the way like the sun was shining. It would only work from that angle from like 7 a.m. till 9 a.m. or so, maybe 10 a.m. Because after that the sun moves and starts like glaring on the canvas and I can't see it. So it's kind of good, like gave me some structure, like okay, if I want to work on this, I gotta do it early and get going. So that's where I'm set up, and for fun I just showed, this is my palette one of the days, just to show some of the colors that I'm mixing and how I move through mixing colors. And then for fun, a wacky way that I set up my French easel, because my painting was pretty big and it doesn't fit on the easel, so I had to do a lot of like funny work to make sure that it would fit on there with bungee cords and what do you call them? Crimps? Crimps. Those things. I don't know. We'll think of the word. Not, clamps. Yes. Clamps and bungee cords to hold the painting up there. And an extension on the easel part. And anyways, just to share that, I think sometimes people have this idea that landscape painting is like a fun, frivolous thing that you do on a Sunday, and it's like easy and pleasurable and joyful. But it takes work, and now you all have experienced you're out there and you're getting a sunburn and like bugs start biting you and then you have to move and your paint dries and like all these things happen. And I just like, you know, like to share that landscape painting is hard work, and sometimes we do really wild things to make it happen, but it's important work that I love, and so I'm really happy to be sharing it with you all this quarter and through this presentation. Yeah, any questions about the painting or that presentation or anything else that I just shared?
I don't know if it's like relevant, but I feel like I've been struggling with like my paint drying when I'm painting outside, and then like especially when I mix it, it's like picking up like the dry gunk paint, and then it's like I'm painting with dry, you know, like it gets on my brush. I'm like, how do you avoid that? I guess if you're painting outside all of the time, especially like when it dries so fast.
Yeah, I guess I will say that this is oil paint, so the oil paint doesn't dry as fast. But yeah, using the spray bottles to spray the paint to keep the paint wet. And I'm also going to share with y'all today a medium called Floetrol, and that's something that can be mixed into your acrylic paints to help it like increase its flow and also hold off on its drying time. So yeah, since we've done a lot of like those small quick paintings, I wanted everybody to just kind of confront the paint and like learn how the paint does what it does. But now that we start to move into our bigger paintings, I'm going to introduce a few mediums that might be good support for that. Yeah, because even with the oil paint, it can dry fast or like weird things happen. So I mix a blend of like linseed oil and other mediums into the paint to help it paint better. Yeah. Anybody else have questions or comments? Okay, I'm excited to see everybody's presentations. We could stop the recording, I think. Thank you.